controls the spice, controls the universe.
Yeah, it's rich in bubbly goodness.
Do you remember when you lost your passion for this work?
I invited another friend. I hope that's okay. Ah!
Let me go. Let me unmute myself. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, bringing you that spice to sci-fi and pop culture analysis. And welcome to the after school special. This interview is recorded, and we usually do these recordings when we want to get a guest and it can't quite meet us during the lunch table time. So we just record offline and have a good time. Of course, you'll notice I am not on screen. That's because your girl was actually out shopping and realized that I had a guest to interview. So I'm rolling around on the mobile equipment, and hopefully we won't run into too many bloopers, but if we do, what the heck, it's just fun. So speaking of fun, we got my co-host Fat Steven Segola. How are you doing?
I am very weirded out that this is coming from a car video, yet I'm not in the car.
Car video.
Oh, I was supposed to clap.
And someone's alarm just went off. I have no idea why. I think they bumped their car by accident or something like that.
No.
Gotta love them in the parking lot.
So you're out shopping, and what'd you get us?
What did I get you guys? I don't know. A receipt?
No, that works. I can always use some more toilet paper. It works great. No, thank you. But yeah, this is going to be weird but interesting. It's been a nice Saturday. It's been kind of like crazy busy, but not like stressful. I'm just relaxed today. It's great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know,
You watched Mortal Kombat yet?
I did not. I'm resisting the urge to press the play button on HBO Max because I only have, let's see, 20 hours before I see it in the theater.
That makes sense. You actually want the film experience. I would, yeah. Well, then don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, because with Godzilla versus Kong, same thing. It's like I saw that first on HBO Max at home, and I have a big TV, and it was cool to watch, but you don't quite get the scale of the kaiju until you're in the theater, you know, and it feels like the whole entire place is moving, you know, when they're panning, you know, up to where, you know, where the kaiju is. It's completely different. So, yeah. So hopefully Mortal Kombat is not going to seriously disappoint me, but I'm looking forward to the fight scenes and the fatalities and like a big huge theater screen.
I don't think you'll be disappointed for a popcorn flick. It's definitely going to be interesting. It's just as interesting as the guy hiding in the back, shirtless wonder, a bearded wonder. I wonder who it could be.
Someone I know who is I shouldn't say troll, but it's true. He's really good. He's hilarious. He's the kind of troll that you want because he is famous for you know, dropping in on your streams, making clips, and then uploads a video that's just freaking hilarious.
I'm slightly more terrified.
No, oh God, no. It's like be terrified, but in a good way. It's kind of like, crap, he got me. But you know what? Get the popcorn. This is going to be fun. So, speaking of fun, let's welcome Memes of Destruction to the show.
Though I know I should be wary, still I venture someplace scary. Ghostly haunting, I turn loose. Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice! Beetlejuice!
Ah, there we go. We should be under 15 seconds, so no copyright infringed. Hey guys, what's going on?
Thank you so much. Doing great. Doing great. So glad you're here with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel a little bit better now about being late. It's like, oh wait, I'm late. Oh wait, Lorena forgot. It's okay. It's okay. You got us a receipt. We can always expense these things out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I tell people the guest is late, but's never late. I'm never going to say that you're late. We've had people much later than you. Like,
yeah.
I got to scream that day.
Oh no, it's good. It's been a while since I've come live to somebody through a vehicle or a car. My apologies. We are on the vehicle of Earth.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I got to stream. Where am I going to do it? Not in a Starbucks, not in a Panera. Okay, we'll just go to my car.
I mean, realistically, I should not be in public in those places. It's probably for the best because, I mean, things happen, questions are asked, answers are given, and then chaos ensues.
Are they actual real answers, or are they answers fit to the memes of destruction mentality?
I mean, they might be answers in some meta. Whose meta it is, I mean, that might depend upon the observer.
So, in other words, the answers are based on how the person understands it and biasly takes it in.
It's modern mimetic theory.
I don't even know big words right now.
Oh, it's basically I've been watching like a lot of these quote unquote like theories of everything, a lot of physics and science videos, just because like politics has completely like drained my soul, even though I still find it fascinating. But it seems to devolve into the same. It's like, I don't like you and the things you stand for. You don't like me and the things I stand for. You're bad. You're bad. No, you're worse. You're worse. Yada yada yada. To the point where like, let me just learn about like the actual building blocks of the universe. Let me escape into the science, the technology, and I started watching The Expanse. It's freaking amazing.
Oh, isn't it great?
Oh, I've heard about it. I haven't watched it, but I have heard really, really good things about it.
I literally popped into one of Nina's streams covering the current season just to say hi to people, and then all of a sudden one of my friends messages me, and she's like, "Can you help me with like some of my philosophy homework?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." She's like, "So we're watching The Expanse, and we're comparing these different like philosophical and like logical essays and stuff." To I'm like, "Go on." So what you're saying is we're gonna watch the show. I'm gonna listen to a whole bunch of smart people say things via YouTube videos, and then basically just kind of like tutor you for your homework. And then I hop on Discord, talk to some folks on like one of these science Discords, and they're like, "Oh, you must have studied a lot of like whatever metaphysical or whatever arguments." I'm like, "No, I just listened to Quine's 2 Dogmas last night." Apparently, he was like he was a famous math and a logician and stuff like that. There was one of the I actually forget what the dogmas were, but essentially it starts off with, if this is supposed to be philosophy, but he actually starts arguing it from a mathematical perspective. So my initial response is like, "Nani? What?" I'm like, "But math is numbers and stuff." But apparently math isn't only necessarily numbers, it can just be relations and just logical arguments. So that's why it's like logic and mathematics kind of go hand in hand, and yet like within the physics community, it's like, well, physics is essentially just like the math of reality. It's like, well, is math reality? What is reality? I just like to view it kind of like the Silver Surfer perspective. Just gotta ride that cosmic wave function, baby.
Dude.
Funny you should say that, because as an engineer and taking a whole bunch of math classes, it seemed like math was the only absolute, science that was out there. But it's not just about learning math. You learn about logic, you learn learn about, relationships. You learn about quantifying things. You even learn about verifying things. It's not enough to work on a math problem. You have to prove it. It has to make sense. You can't just go, math doesn't give a crap about your feelings. It really doesn't. It's like it's either right or it's wrong. There's many ways to approach a problem, but it's a lot of it is about logical thought. But I won't go into why they want to get rid of math programs, but we'll move on to something else.
Oh, these aren't the lemmas you're looking for.
No. No, they certainly are not. Oh,
Not to derail, but I really think a lot of how we view society and a lot of each other right now is in forms of kind of like the different communities that we exist in. We may exist within several different communities, and sometimes there are communities within communities there. A lot of it does come down to, at least within the math community, that I've heard that a lot of folks, as far as having actual proof within mathematics, something may work, and it may work within that instance. But is it necessarily even true? And this has apparently been a big thing within the greater mathematical community for about like a decade or so. It's like, is the modern mathematics that we know actually true? Like, what are the actual, because I think within mathematics they have basically the proofs, and you would go through like the lemmas, the actual argumentation of showing
exactly
why this is true.
Right.
Not just it works, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I think we kind of meld together a little bit there. It's like, we're saying this is true. It's like, well, that may be what you believe and what a lot of people are saying, but that doesn't necessarily make it true.
Interesting.
You're born.
Wait, that's nice.
I'm trying to get away from my nightmares of being at the whiteboard.
Oh.
Right now, proofs and crap. I'm like, do we really have to? Okay, fine. All right, fine. We'll go ahead.
I apologize for bringing back academia. We can talk about pop culture. How was Godzilla versus Kong in the theater? Because I watched it like 1.5 times on HBO Max. I do really kind of want to see it in the theater, but I'm just like, I can be kind of a snob at times. It's like, we do have some IMAX theaters and stuff. They also aren't the largest of theaters, but I'm just like, that does seem like one of those movies that would be wicked nice within a theater.
It is. How would I explain it? It would be like if you watch, like, for example, so you see Godzilla's face, on the screen and in your TV, and you know that it's Godzilla and he's there.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in this theater and you notice the expressions on his face, just how subtle everything changes, where you can tell if Godzilla is just pissed, if he's just annoyed, if he's straight up angry. I mean, being able to see,
get that sinister look on his face. I got you, monkey.
Exactly. And the
sheer fact it's a big screen. It's like, that's freaking Godzilla.
I think it adds the height effect in a way, right? Because then you actually feel how small you actually are, and then you're like, "Thank God you're not real. Another chip, please. Thank you."
We're back to relativity.
It's like when Godzilla's in the water. It's like those scenes in Jaws. If you see it on your television, it's like, okay, it's shark. Yeah, okay. But you see it in the theater and how big it is when it's swimming. You get that feeling of, oh crap, this is not going to freaking end well, so being able to, like, I thought it was cool. Better than swimming with sharks, you get to swim with Godzilla, so that was cool too. So it just heightened the whole experience. You get to see, like, even with Kong, you see his expressions on the television, but blown up on the big screen, there's more of an emotional connection to his expressions.
Just as a quick FYI, if you take that opening scene with Kong and you overlay it with All Star, it's beautiful.
Smash Mouth?
Yes, Smash Mouth All Star. Just
yes!
Kong waking up. It's like, Somebody once told me the
I'm good to do
world was
this.
gonna roll me. There
I
ain't
know.
another tool in the shed. And Kong's
Yeah.
like literally getting up, scratching his butt and everything like that. I'm like,
know.
and it literally ends right with him like kind of piercing. Minor spoilers, something that might be hiding him.
Yeah.
We'll say.
Yeah, I think they went with that era of music that they used because it lined up with Skull Island. Because I was thinking the same thing. I'm just like, this is cool. There's some better music than this, really, to line up to it. So yeah, Smash Mouth, that would have worked.
It
That would've
reminded me of the opening to Shrek. See, that was why.
Exactly.
Just because I'm like, all right, you got giant Kong there, and then you got Shrek, and I'm like, all right,
Yes.
the mimetic similarity. I'm like, all right, they're both supposedly monsters. They're both very scary, but they're also very goofy in their own right.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Exactly. Ah.
So, but wait, we
well.
forgot to ask though. We forgot to ask. Are you Kong or Team Zilla?
That's right.
What do you think?
Team One Punch Man?
I don't like
Well,
to assume.
That is very wise. That is very wise. No, but I am a long time Godzilla fan. I mean, that's probably a contributing reason why I am a scaly, as we can see from the blue-eyed Ouroboros behind me right here. To be fair, actually, I found out several years ago that apparently in one of my first preschool reports, it literally said, mean to stop growling at and begun associating with the other children now. And I actually remember what they were talking about because at one point I was out by the chain link fence and the pine trees in the back, and I was stomping along and kicking the pine cones because I was memeing Godzilla from Godzilla versus Megalon, where Godzilla's showing up, he's kicking boulders and everything there. Dude, I was totally doing that. I'm like, I remember that. I wasn't being a dinosaur, I was being Godzilla. But Godzillasaurus, depending on the canon you want to go with, Team Godzilla, yes. I was for the movie. I probably give it probably about an 8.75, just because it's like, all right, were there some other things they could have done? Yeah, could the music have been better? I think King of the Monsters probably did a better music. It was a fun popcorn flick. One of my big gripes was, how'd you get Kong on the boat? Because in the historical canon, they got Kong drunk. They got that monkey hammered on all that like sweet juice, and he passed out, and then they airlifted him in. So there was some homage there with the planes and stuff. But it's like, how did you get to the point where you had the giant trank collar on him? Was it just like, little girl, here, put this thing on, it's gonna pinch Kong? It's like that was something that's like, okay, I'm gonna knock you a little bit on that. Then again, it is during a pandemic. You did spend the extra time, and it was a fun movie. It was a fun movie. You got to bring back in one of the villains from the previous movies there. Could there have been some more character development arcs in some areas? Sure. Did you need as much scene as you did in the Academy with what's his dude wearing the coat over his shoulders and everything with the Hollow Earth guy's brother? It's like it is what it is. I'd be curious to see if I heard they had extra footage, but they didn't necessarily finish it all. Was it necessarily woven in? And apparently at one point they were at least pitching Godzilla having armor, or potentially using it as armor to encase him and have him transfer that radioactive energy to power Mechagodzilla. I'm like, no. One does not simply brainbox Godzilla. That isn't how this works.
No.
So, are you sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Stephen. Go ahead.
I was going to ask. I was like, are you referring to the secret credit scenes that people were talking about, or they were expecting to see? Or
I was referring to Dino Riders and the sheer fact that that's how they basically the Rulons actually brainbox the actual dinosaurs, whereas the Arulians basically they use their psionic powers and basically their amulets to focus and actually communicate with their fellow Earth creature at that point. So it's like, I had seen a video of somebody speculating. I think it was Dangerville, maybe, or someone.
The reason I was asking was like, you were talking about the extra footage and stuff, right? Or were you talking about the secret scene that people were expecting, or was it that's just it in general with the brain box?
I combined many different things.
Oh, well, okay. Because supposedly that they were supposed to have an ending credits scene, but that eventually got taken out and actually just put into the movie.
Right. The scene where basically, they basically just kept it, because I actually remember watching till the end, and I'm like, There's no extra credit scene, so that actually does make more sense.
Mm. I know one of the things looking back that I didn't quite like. I mean, I gave the movie like an 8. It was a good popcorn flick. Lots of Godzilla because I freaking like that. My issue was, okay, Kong versus Godzilla. What are you gonna do to Kong to make him kind of like on par? And as much as I love Mecha Godzilla, I kind of feel it was a cop out to bring him in that film. It seemed like it was more of just a mechanism to have,
It was to give
Kong
somebody. It's like, all right, you got Team Zilla. Sorry to cut you off. Team Zilla, Team Kong. Somebody's always going to be pissed and everything because this was actually part of the history of Godzilla versus Kong. Because in the original Japanese movie, basically they both tumble into the water, and then you see Godzilla leaving. In the American version, which was the first version I saw, when they tumbled in, you saw Kong leaving. So it left it open to interpretation that one was leaving and the other had been defeated. You don't know if they basically had lost their life or something, but it's assumed that this individual had the one up. So it had never been settled. Director Adam Wingard, he did say, it's like, all right, you will have a definitive winner. And we did have a definitive winner. However, it's like you do also offer a bit of a redemption, if you would, because, well, if you actually have two very popular characters within the quote-unquote monsterverse, are you really going to kill them off this early into the monsterverse, of which you have like 3 movies of? I don't know. Personally, I'd like to see a lot more, because I'm really a solid Godzilla fan, but I'm not going to lie. This movie built Kong up so much for me as a character, because I was never really a huge King Kong fan. This movie, I was cheering for the dude. Like, throughout this one, I'm like, go Kong, get it done. And just like, even at the end, it's like, I would have preferred to see a little bit more homage to maybe like Terror Mecha Godzilla with the G-Man himself kind of going a little bit of, I don't know, Sub-Zero on Mecha G's butt. But you know what? Something about superpowering Kong's axe and letting him mortal strike Mecha G into pieces. It was satisfying.
It was. I just kind of.
I respect Kong. I gained respect for Kong throughout that movie, and even the battle scenes before, because he got. Again, Reina, I feel you. As far as Mecha G, it's like, of course I want to see Godzilla obliterate.
Yeah.
That's why you watch a Godzilla movie.
You want to see it destroy.
It's kind of like, well, I guess it's just me. It's like I love, it's like I like Mecha Godzilla, of course, itself, but it's kind of just like I kind of wish that it was something else instead of him, just because he was so mechanical. I guess I just wanted to see more of an organic fight, but it was okay. I didn't have a problem with how it ended up, but like you were saying about Kong, because Kong was not my favorite. When I heard about this movie, I'm just like, okay, well, Godzilla better win, but how are you even going to make Kong much of an opponent? And I go back and I watch Skull Island. I'm like, okay, all right, this can kind of work. But the movie did make me emotionally buy into rooting for Kong, which is what I did not want to do. But that wound up happening. But what I just didn't like is like, okay, you're going to bring in Mecha Godzilla to basically drip Godzilla to pieces. That was just that part I could go with it, because that scene where he wiped out the bad guy, I was like with that other guy said, man, I really wanted to hear the end of that speech.
I do have a question. I have a question for memes. Do you honestly believe, because I've talked about this with Pop Culture Minefield and stuff, and they brought it up. Do you think they're also opening up the monster reverse in general for the alien invasion start coming next?
Well, the random exilian arcs, which are basically sometimes referred to them as the people from like Planet X or whatever iteration you want to have, that is fairly standard. And even within, I believe, Godzilla Final Wars, that was kind of how they brought most of the things there. So whether it was basically the summoning of Kaiser Ghidorah or just like re-engineering Gigan multiple times, it is something that it does seem to be a logical thing. It was something that I did speculate at as a potential if you're going to pay true homage to Mecha Godzilla, because that was the original storyline of Mecha Godzilla as well as Terror Mecha Godzilla. It's like basically you had these engineers from outer space utilizing space titanium. In the more recent iterations from like the 90s, basically you had the Kiryu version of Mechagodzilla as well, which was actually based upon DNA supercomputers, as well as what I had speculated they might do is utilizing the skeleton from the original Godzilla, because they used the skeleton from the Godzilla that apparently had perished in 1954, utilized those bones as part of the base. And I'm like, well, in 2014, I don't know, we saw one of Godzilla's ancestors there. It seemed to be a big skeleton available. I'd speculated they may do something like that. It doesn't appear that they did, or they didn't mention that at all if that was the case. It doesn't appear because of the size relativity. But when you're just looking at that there, it's like, all right, they went down a particular road. Will they do aliens at some point? Probably. I think what we're going to see first, and maybe this falls within to the same category, is I think there's been a lot of rumors we might see a crossover with Pacific Rim at some point. Because there's a lot of popularity for that. This has been going around for probably about a year or two, because I think this is one of the things that fans have been mentioning it, and aren't they both within similar studios, or don't similar folks own the properties? I think this might be the case, as well as my other cursory evidence for my hypothesis is, so you all remember when they were going to the Hollowed Earth, and they mentioned something about, well, we need a kaiju to basically help open the gate. Don't that sound a little bit something like from Pacific Rim? About requiring kaiju?
February 21st memes. February 11th, 2021. Pacific Rim Uprising director reveals his plans to do crossover with Godzilla and the MonsterVerse. So you have some actual substance to that. Yeah.
That also seems to be something that I do remember somebody mentioning there, because it's like, all right, this seems like a logical idea. You had a popular franchise that the first movie was really good. They waited, I think, too long for the second movie, and it probably could have more of a punch had they come out with it earlier. But now it's like, all right, you get giant monsters. Well, how do you deal with the Titans? How do you deal with giant monsters? It's like, well, we have these robots. Now we got different Earths, and if we're going to go with the whole additional dimensions or something like that, because I mean, they even did this within the Cloverfield franchise. Once they got to the third Cloverfield paradox, that actually started to explain some of the crazy things that were going on. It's like, why did these random things happen? I don't know. Well, maybe we smashed a couple of Higgs bosons. I don't know if that actually means anything, but it sounds good and sciencey. And they didn't really have enough monsters for my taste in that movie.
Did you like Paradox?
It was interesting. It actually kind of reminds me a little bit of The Expanse. It didn't really bother me because I watched the Cloverfield Way thing. That was more of a drama movie. I think they need to be. I'd like it if they were a little bit more open, because I still remember seeing the original Cloverfield in theaters. I remember like, oh, you see these. I'm like, oh my god, it's a monster movie. This thing is crazy. You're seeing all this footage. I didn't realize the whole movie was going to be basically like jumbly hand footage like that, and I got wicked nauseous during it. And I'm like, oh, my tummy hurts. This movie is. And then I watched till the end. I'm like, okay, I want to go sit down somewhere.
The spiders, the ones that like would grab onto you, and they would stick you or whatever, and then they'd come out of your chest. That was like there was like the nuance to Alien right there, and that's where I was like, okay, I gotta watch this till the end right now. There was I think it was the subway scene when they're in the subway tunnels.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like xenomorph with kaiju.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen Pacific Rim, so I may have to check that out. Yeah, another movie I gotta see.
It's worthwhile, and there are a lot of actors that were in that you start seeing some of the things they're doing later, and you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Have you watched the Netflix series? Sorry, Lorraine, I forgot you're on a computer.
Yeah, it gave me bad Transformers vibe, so that's probably why I took it off my list initially.
That makes sense.
Oh, Pacific Rim.
Yeah, I think that the last Transformers movie had left such a bad taste in my mouth. Anything that kind of looked like it, because I saw the preview for it when I was in the theater, and I'm just like, that just looks like Transformers. Okay, I'll skip it.
Medically, if you're just looking at that, I can see how that happens. See, my benefit is I didn't watch past, like, I think the first 2 or 3 Transformers movies so far, And I'm like, all right. I noticed a little bit of a trend that maybe I wasn't the biggest fan of, so I just didn't watch the other ones. But Pacific Rim, I did watch the original, kind of probably a bit after it came out, a couple of years. The second one, I mean, it was okay. I'm just a big fan of monster movies. But the original Pacific Rim, the way they have that set up, and just the whole apparent transfer of either to a different dimension or a different space, and if you combine that with the Hollow Earth, it's really not that far out there. Of especially if you look at this was brought up in someone else's video. I forget who, but the technology on Earth, as far as the kaiju go, it's like, all right, you start off, you get Skull Island. Okay, you got like some Apache helicopters and stuff like that. And then you get to like Godzilla, King of the Monsters. It's like, oh, wow, we get all these kaiju and everything. We're learning all this technology. King of the Monsters, you got like these super giant fortress planes and stuff like that. And you got freaking oxygen destroyers and everything. It's like, whoa. And now in freaking Godzilla versus Kong, it's like, you got anti-gravity vehicles and stuff like that. I'm like, is it really? I think we are setting the stage. And I think this is actually a good thing for a lot of, especially because there is actual science kind of behind a lot of this stuff. It's like if you look at the advances of like where we're actually going, it's like we're literally on the cusp of potentially, whether you either call it new physics, whether you call it like new technology, like the amount of advances that if we can just get over this hurdle and just like, I don't know, maybe clear the cachet of hatred from our heads and hearts and not destroy each other. It's like, dude, we could be in such amazingly cool stuff in not that long a period of time. So
You sound like a really big kid when you start talking about this stuff. It's pretty awesome.
I am a big kid.
Well, what I'm trying to say is I'm not very well knowledgeable when it comes to physics and all this stuff attached to it. So you give me the excitement to want to actually go down a rabbit hole and give it a chance.
It is. There's a lot of. Well, the thing is, I think in school, a lot of times we seem to be forced to learn things, and they might be things that we may have interest in, but depending on how it's presented. And I actually spoke with a teacher at a place I used to help out at, and basically we'd swapped over to Common Core and stuff like that. And I'd heard a lot of people complaining about Common Core, so I asked him like, what's the deal with this? Like, is Common Core is it better? Is it worse? What's the deal? He's like, as far as the kids go, most of the kids, they seem to essentially be able to learn at the same rates because they'd have like a little base 10 thing or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. But I think one of the issues that they ran into is if a child needed help with their homework from their parents or guardians or somebody that was probably older than them, if they had learned more of the classical way that it had been taught and not the Common Core way, there might be some confusion there. But regardless of both of those things right there, very often seem to come down to, I looked at some of these sheets and you'd still see problems such as like, if Sally has 5 apples and she gives Mikey 2 apples, how many apples will Sally have? With all due respect to Sally and Mikey, I don't care how many apples they have. Have it be relatable. Talk about number of Pokemon cards. Talk about like building a D&D character based upon a point-based buy system so you could see different relations and stuff like that. It's like,
Dude,
I seriously...
You are so right. Not to interrupt you, but
go.
yeah, that's like the biggest issue that when I would like say I would go to like I would help my nephew out with his homework. And the same thing, if Sally had this many or if a train leaves at so and so at such a time and another train leaves at so and so time, when will they meet? I'm like, I'd fall asleep on this question. I'm like, okay, well, if truck A is traveling at this rate, truck B is traveling at this rate. If there's a cow in the street, which car is going to hit it first? And he's like, you can do that. I'm like, yeah, you can you can do that. But it's like you have so many teachers for whatever reason, either their hands are tied, I don't know what, but they will make it as boring as possible. Another thing is history. One of the best things I had a history teacher tell me, he was really good at like using, modern, dramatizations and stuff like that. And he said the cool thing is watching this stuff makes the kids interested. And then when you tell them, okay, I want you to watch that, and then I want you to go back to history and I want you to figure out what's true and what they took artistic license with. It gets the kids interested. Like, for example, the John Adams miniseries on HBO, that was freaking amazing. people who weren't even into history would like watch that. And then, it's like, yeah, this part was true. This part, not really so much, but they were kind of, they kind of took liberty with it. This part was absolutely false, and they just, used it for dramatics. But it's just amazing how some teachers or some even school systems will say, well, the kids aren't really learning, but it's just like, you're not really making it to a point where they want to.
Right, right. It's because it kind of comes down to the old adage: everyone loves to buy, nobody likes to be sold.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody actually is interested and they want to learn about it, they'll be willing to learn about it. If you try to just force something down somebody's throat, it's like they're not going to take kindly to that.
No, I taught fractions using gummy bears, so we'd like saw their heads off, body parts off.
Can you teach me how to cross multiply fractions? Because I still don't know how.
I could.
I never. We don't need to do it right now. We don't need to do it right now. We can save that for another time. I forget that I said that.
I laugh because I would use all kinds of things to help my nephew with his math homework. I'd use M&Ms. I'd use Skittles. We'd use video games, stuff that would kind of stick with him. And in a way it worked, for me. It's like, okay, well, if you can make this, relatable, because my job in IT, it's like a lot of what I do is making complicated things seem simple to be able to communicate that to people who aren't technical. So for me, that's like a great, exercise, to do. Not right now, but
yeah, no, that's how I remember what pi is. What is pi? It's the thing that defines a circle. I like pi. It's a circle. And then it disappears into my tummy.
I can get all the slices, or I can give, not.
Well, you should share. When you share, your cuppeth runneth over.
Yeah. Except if it's key lime, I'm not trying to share that with nobody.
I'll take a little lemon meringue and some cherry.
Lemon meringue, please.
But dude,
a little baked Alaska.
Say baked Alaska.
Yeah, it's the fiery lemon meringue.
I've never had that one.
What do you mean fiery? Is it like what?
Fire, right?
There's an actual ritual to it where basically baked Alaska. It's when you serve it, you're supposed to. I totally was on a very fancy cruise stuff at one point. And they were doing the state desserts each night and stuff, and one night was baked Alaska. And the server folks, came out there and they got this fire and stuff like that. It's on fire, and then they just cover it up, and so it's kind of almost like burning a marshmallow real quick and then taking it off. I don't know. All I remember was there was fire and it was tasty. It's 20 years ago. Oh God, maybe more than that now. Jeez, don't ever get old, kids.
I just remember watching creme brulee get made. And I'm like, let me get this straight. Sugar on top, you light it on fire so it all melts and then it's like glass. Okay, that's freaking cool.
It's science. Cool. It's science.
Exactly. It is. It's science. But man, I gotta ask you about YouTube, because it's funny. You're one of those YouTubers who I found out early on, even before I started putting my face out there, because for a while I didn't, show my face. And let's see, I was on a Queen's Council stream with Christy, and I think with Mads, and I didn't think anything of it. It was one of the first that I'd ever done. And then I think the next day on Twitter, I see a tweet from you, and I'm tagged in it. And I forget what the subject was, but I'm like, why am I tagged in this tweet for YouTube? And I go to your channel, and you have this clip show of clips from the different shows. And the one with me and Christy and Mads, Christy sneezed, and you put in this effect, this blast wave that came out. I'm like, this is.
There was a clip from the original Sonic trailer that Paramount had put out there, because I literally just edited my own fan film of a Sonic anime music video using Sonic Saturday AM. It's Blue Streak, Speeds. I literally just used that in my Sonic clip, And then that was part of one of the clips I had gathered from other trolley streams. And I looked at it, I'm like, oh, well, I could totally use this for that clip. Let's do it.
Is that why
was
Christy
so
hides off camera?
funny. What?
Is that why Christy hides off camera now too, just in case Memes is always on the prowl?
No,
You wasn't
no.
even
It
on
was
camera at the
literally
time. Doesn't matter. I can get
yeah,
to it regardless.
it was to the point where you wanted Memes to come in and like troll your chat and then see what he was gonna come up with that. It was just one of the funniest things that I just enjoyed watching those. So it's like whenever you show up in the chat, we're just like, yeah, we can't wait to see what he does with this clip. So how did you get interested and involved with YouTube?
That's a story from a long time ago. A time of myth and legend. And no, I'm repeating the intro to Hercules' legendary journeys. But I have nothing in common except wearing a yellow shirt. But as far as that goes, YouTube. When did I get into YouTube? I got into YouTube back before Google even bought YouTube, back in like 2009. It's
Wow.
My original YouTube channel was, well, I had been doing a lot of gaming. I played a lot of World of Warcraft, and I kind of neglected my physical being for a while. So what I did was, I'm like, all right, I'm a lazy, unemployed, at-home bum. Let me try to drop like 50 pounds. So all I did was, I literally used it as a video blog to keep track of my fitness. And over the course of 90 days, I dropped like, I don't know, like 45, 50 or so pounds. Went from like 240 to like 185, 190. And I just like did like weekly videos, and it's like, all right, I started off, it's like, all right, and then like 90 days later, it's like, oh, look, I have abs and stuff. Oh, I was also like, I think like 23 years old at the time. So it's like, oh, well, maybe that's not as hard to do when you're younger. But at the same time I did that, I remember at the time, I was just doing that just like to keep myself honest and everything. And I would keep getting these emails like, so-and-so has subscribed to you, so-and-so has followed you, or whatever. I'm like, why am I getting all these emails? Why do all these people care and everything? And I know it's like some of my videos maybe had like a couple of thousand views back in the day. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. There also wasn't any monetization program or any real hint of any type of models or any. All I know is I was supposed to be a good little boy. I went and did my corporate 100 gig, went into corporate America, sold things for a while. Not that I don't miss the money, but just also part of your soul feeling like to drain out when you're in corporate sales. It's like, I can sell you the same roof for $25,000 or $20,000. The only difference is the size of my commission check. Something like that. It's like, hey, ain't nothing wrong with somebody making an honest living. Not necessarily the biggest fan myself, point of personal preference. It's well, then just even some of those different jobs, the schedules and everything. It's like, well, you're on call for these amount of hours and everything. It's like, yeah, and I'd rather have a little bit more of a schedule. And that's one of the reasons why I literally just lift things up and put them down all day. Because it's like, all right, I work like Monday through Friday typically, and I just do things like that. It seems to be, quote unquote, a necessary job because, well, people got to eat. If the food don't get there, then bad things happen. So it's just, getting back to YouTube, sorry. Giving you my life story. I apologize.
I apologize for sharing yourself. You
say that now. You say that now. Give it a few more minutes. But
that's fine.
As far as you, oh boy. But as far as YouTube goes, I did that for a while. I did my corporate thing, and then after a while, I'm like, all right, kind of got out of it, and I had actually forgotten my YouTube password for like a decade. So eventually, I created this new moniker, the Memes of Destruction, because, well, before creation, sometimes there must be destruction. It's also kind of the moniker on the Blue Eyes White Dragon card. It's like the ultimate engine of destruction. So I'm like, oh, I have blue eyes. I'm kind of white. I like dragons. So I totally used that as one of my original avatars, as we can see in different forms. Ooh, it made a little thingy sound. But it comes through. No, it was just a novel noise. I'm like, ooh, this is stimulating. I like it. But I kind of did this, got into the whole politics side of things, trying to hung out on a bunch of other folks' channels for a while, trying to maybe help them kind of like come up a little bit and everything. God rest his soul, Mad Dodge. Um, but got introduced to a lot of folks, branched out within different communities. Met other folks, kind of like Moira. Moira kind of got me into Mary, and then kind of Mary just kind of expanded me out within these different nodes and a lot of folks over here. So that's how I met like uh, Thomas, Lorena, Orbs, Jay, freaking Fatal Jay, freaking just a lot of folks within these different communities, and just seeing certain folks there and just being able to interact and have folks to talk to about things that you're interested in. I mean, that's very important, especially during these apparently like plague times and everything, where certain reactions may be limited in their scope and duration. So it's like the internet is more important than ever to actually like reach out and actually be able to communicate with our fellow creature. And the Almighty gave us the word. What we do with it, well, that's up to us.
Very cool.
I sorry, I feel like I got a bit preachy at the end there when I was just supposed to explain my YouTube career.
No preachy. You've done like what a lot of people do.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes total sense. I think about with this whole thing that happened with the the Wu-Tang flu. It's like regular communication as we know it. The whole paradigm shifted, and without having this connection via the internet, a lot of people wouldn't be able to be in communication, wouldn't be able to create these communities. For some people, this medium is difficult, but at least it is there, and they don't have to feel completely cut off unless they want to be, or if there's some barrier for them to get to it. um I know for me, it's just like there's people that I probably wouldn't have met before if it wasn't for this medium. So I'm grateful for it. And I tell people, don't underestimate this particular medium. It's just, how would I say, it's not its final form. If you want to go about it that way, this is the internet is something that started literally in the 60s. There was like a government project, where if nuclear war happened, how could communications keep going on? And there was like iteration after iteration after iteration. Then you bring up Netscape Navigator, which showed up. Then you have AOL, which showed up. And then of course you had
Oh,
Google, which you
dial
thought was
tone is
going to be a
ingrained
little
in my
bit
memory
searchable.
forever.
I,
Ga-ding,
th-
ga-ding, ga-ding.
I think it was my brother's
Oh,
ICQ that's constantly in my mind. Whenever the notification went off for his ICQ, I hear, "Oh!" And I'm like, "Oh my god, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off." And you would hear it go constantly over and over and over again. And I'm like,
Uh,
"Oh god, what is happening? Is there Smurfs dying nearby? What is this?"
oh my
oh, you're making me
gosh.
happy. I never successfully learned how to use it.
Oh my god, dude.
No,
Huh?
I tapped out of that. I was like, nope, not gonna do it. I got asked if I wanted. Well, I was working with a lot of computer scientists and engineers are like, you want to learn how to use them? I'm like, no, thank you. I'm just not interested.
Well, AIM kind of
What
smashed
did?
it out as well. It's like, all right, here's just the box. Talk via the box. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what was it?
And Google
You have
Messenger.
mail. I hope you don't have stock.
It, it was conceptually one of the greatest ideas ever. How they ended up not fully capitalizing and that I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And it got to the point where I'm just like, dude, you keep sending out these CDs. They're just coasters. That's what they wind
Oh
up being.
God, how much of our landfills are made up by old AOL CDs?
I don't
Just
know.
We sent them like every week. It's just like here, America Online, and people would just keep on just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna do a new thing. I'm just gonna do a new thing. I'm just gonna do another free. It's like, what are you doing? You got a bunch of users. Okay, that's cool. What now? We'll sell ourselves
What do
to
you?
Yahoo. I don't know.
Uh, it was just a freaking mess. And then Google showed up. Like I said, we thought Google was just this cute little search engine that was a heck of a lot better than Alta Vista.
Alta Vista, Dogpile, Yahoo.
Ask
Yeah.
Jeeves.
Oh, Jeeves was actually highly accurate for early internet.
Yeah.
I liked Ask Jeeves. That was actually funny. That was a good one.
We had Lycos,
But, yeah.
the little dog as well.
Oh, you said Lycos.
Oh, is that bad within the computer industry? Would I have been safer with GeoCities?
Wow. That's blowing that's going into the dustbin.
I'm dating myself.
You are.
Library stacks.
I've never heard of Lycos.
I've spent a lot of time on the internet.
Lycos is, oh man, it's I would put it up there with Alta Vista, but cooler than Alta Vista, but not that many people knew about it. It's kind of like an underground thing.
Oh, I guess my interest directed me in certain directions.
No, I remember hearing about Lycos. We're like, what? I'm like, dude, how many search engines do we freaking have out there? And that's just what got to be so frustrating. It's just like,
That was the concept of Dogpile. Just search like 27 of them at once, and then try your best.
Yep, Dogpile. I was just like, there's just too freaking many. I'm just trying to find a flipping article. That's all I'm trying to find. But it's changed, it's changed so much. It's like you've gone from that to like message boards to Facebook.
To people being like, oh, here's some geometrically heavy interacted with content. Do you necessarily care about this? No. What are you going to say? Well, something to obviously earn myself some internet points, because this is how we play the game of the internet. So I'm going to say things that people are going to like and want to hear, and I'll earn internet points. Why? Because we can.
But what did those points go towards? I'm just wondering. Was it like Popsicle Pete sticks? You just collected them all and traded them in for like a surfboard or something?
See, I always just assumed it was social clout or just be like, look at how right and virtuous I am.
But
this
memes,
is like
what if Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Steven.
I was going to ask memes. What if all those points you were supposed to save up to get your own Blue Eyes White Dragon and you just missed the offer?
Well, this is why I'm still saving my points.
Oh, you're still hoping for that dragon?
I still got some tickets somewhere. They don't expire, do they?
I'm not the lord of the internet. I just take up most of it.
I don't think so. No. So do those social points, is that the reason why all of my old relatives are on Facebook yelling at each other? They don't call anymore. They just go on Facebook and yell at each other.
Well, because you can show other people how much you care about a particular thing by screaming at another person you have a disagreement with on the internet, just so everyone else can see your personal business being voiced to the world.
Okay, so it's no longer the old ladies on the stoop with the neighborhood overhearing it and coming over. So now the neighborhood is all on Facebook now.
Well, everyone has a digital stoop in some way, shape, or form until they get digitally sentenced to death.
Mm-hmm. Just wait a couple of years down the road. You're just gonna they'll be back sitting on the porch enjoying a nice sunny day. They'll have a speaker right beside them, and they'll be attached to their phone via Bluetooth. It'll be text to speech, and they will just type on their Facebook, and they will just yell it at the neighbor they're directing to.
Could we just have drones flying around being like, sunny days, washing the clouds away, something else I don't know, ba 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 ba.
But then I hope so. But then someone would just yell at that it's too loud.
Yeah,
they're not including enough languages.
This is why I'm at the point I'm at right now, where I just, my opinion right now to solve all these problems is let's just re-legalize dueling.
Sword or pistol?
Yeah, I don't say. If you want to do pistols at dawn, pistols at dawn. If you want to do long swords till first blood, do long swords till first blood. All I know is there seem to be a lot of folks out there that seem to be getting grossly offended at words and things that people are saying. So all I'm saying is If consenting adults wish to engage in mortal combat under the doctrine of bodily autonomy, I say legalize it and let them fight. Let the dog catch the car. I apologize for taking us into a completely different direction.
No, I have to laugh because a distant cousin of mine was kind of famous. You ever heard of Aaron Burr?
Oh, I have done some research involving Mr. Burr. That's fascinating.
Yeah, he's a distant cousin of mine. I'm like, the guy who shot Hamilton in a duel. Really, that guy.
Hamilton, one of the founders that ended up losing his life in a duel.
Yep.
After the duel, yeah.
So,
I'm just saying. All I'm saying is, I think we would benefit from a slightly more honorable society. That's all.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. People these days think that they have a right to not be offended. Before it was like, you're offended, shake it off or handle it. There used to be where, if people had a beef, they just let them go outside and just let them fight it out. Just let them fight it out, let it talk it out, do all of that. Now it seems like confrontation is a bad thing. Confrontation doesn't always have to be a bad thing. There used to be a time in this country, I tell people, if you go back to the founding fathers, especially some discussions that Jefferson and Hamilton would have, and a lot of that stuff was in print. I mean, it's just like, you're saying who about what?
That would be the genesis for some of these conflicts and everything, and that's why you had the whole process of, okay, you don't actually want these individuals potentially risk their lives. That's why you would have a second representing each individual. Basically, they would meet beforehand to see if they could settle the occurrences, because what would happen? Sometimes somebody would write perhaps an article in a periodical that was very salacious. Some may say libelous or defamatory. I always forget the difference between those two. But somebody would offend somebody, the other person would not apologize for it because of whatever reason. So then that person could demand satisfaction. And at that point, the person doesn't need to accept the duel. But if in society it's like, dude, you totally wrong that person, and you're not willing to put up for it, it's like, all right, well, at that point, your mouth and or pen is writing checks your butt can't cash. And people will know that.
You're kind of describing the whole environment of like when you have social media platforms like Twitter or Facebook and how people think they can hide behind the screen. When you look at me, it's so weird when you do that. It throws me off. But it's pretty much the same thing. The keyboard warrior, I guess, in a way, like they'll say these things, they won't backtrack on them, and they just do it again to the next person or the other person over and over and over again.
Nobody would ever be a hypocrite on the internet.
No, never. No, that doesn't happen there.
Yeah.
The internet is a safe space of accepted opinions, discussion, and matters of consciousness.
Right.
Hashtag
that's
sarcasm.
Right. That's why we have our own little communities that become our own little safe spaces until somebody says something or does something and goes beyond the pale, and then maybe we don't completely just throw that person out. Maybe we just slowly distance ourselves from this person. We just kind of gravitate in other directions and leave other folks there, and then other folks will come. It's kind of like the movement of galaxies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we could sit down and actually maybe have behind the scenes conversations, see if we can come to some reconciliation. I mean, that would be what I think like being an adult is supposed to be. But I mean, it's a lot easier to be like, oh my God, look at what this person said or did. They've gone beyond the pale. Bada boom, bada bing. They're bad now. Okay. Click monetize.
That's the easier mentality for a lot of people. But you just nailed it on the head. It's like my side or they're the evil one, their side, they're not listening enough, but they don't actually want to sit down, whether it be in private or in open, just talk it out, because that's how we used to do before we even had the dial-up. Even if you piss someone off in a letter, you have to write back an apology or work it through, or they wouldn't write back ever again. Same type of thing.
You could call somebody on thing called a telephone. There are things that we have now that we also used to play Farmville on.
Yeah. SimCity.
Too. but it's just like, people, it's too many people think that confrontation is bad. Confrontation doesn't always have to be, a bad thing. I had been told a couple of times, uh, by some, I love corporate America, sarcasm. Um, it's like, yeah, I want to talk with you about X, Y, and Z. That's not, not working. Oh, you're so confrontational. I'm like, well, we're trying to get to the crux of what's going on, and we can't fix things, unless we have a conversation.
Well, obviously
And
you're
it's like,
attacking me because these are issues with me, and maybe, or at least that's how the person is taking it, rather than being like, these are issues that maybe you are responsible for. However, this may be a side effect of the system itself.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask a question kind of related to this? When you do have conversations or you try to have a discussion with people or a group of people or a single person, and you come across as straight to the point, logical, and blunt without holding back the emotional value of how the other person might perceive it, can that also cause friction within understanding of having open communication, or does that fall on the party delivering it or the party receiving it?
Are you talking to me or Lorena?
Both. I can't move my head, bro. I'm stuck in this one position.
Oh, okay. No, I wasn't sure. I'm like, I'm being interviewed, but then again, Lorena was just talking. So even that slight misunderstanding there, rather than addressing it, I mean, I don't know. Go on.
no, Memes, you go ahead. You're the guest, so you can answer
I'm
first,
sorry.
please.
And this is partially why I'm trying to, and I've been telling myself this for a while, but then I keep on getting lazy and distracted about other things, trying to do a series on modern mimetic theory, because what is it? It's just like, well, kind of how we view different mimetics. What even is a meme at this point? We're actually having a discussion on one of my other friends' channels the other day about it. It's like, can be very difficult because a meme can literally be anything. Anything can become a meme, but not necessarily everything is a meme. And that just kind of like makes my head hurt a little bit. And once people's heads start to hurt, they don't like to think about it. But how can you explain things in a way? And that's one of the reasons why, and again, maybe it's just because I've been on like a big physics and science binge, is you start to see how things are connected, how different things work. And there are these things called tensor networks. And oh my God, a buzzword. What is a tensor network? I lean my hand against the wall. I lean. All right. My arm is acting as a tensor. It's having a proportional relationship with this wall. If I move my arm, I start going to the wall unless I am balanced there. So what I'm saying is if we can start to identify these different quote unquote mimetic tensors between individuals, their interactions as well, we can actually start to have maybe more productive conversations, right? To actually get at the point rather than beating around the bush. And again, Stephen, being overly blunt and just completely ignoring another person's circumstance and just even their feelings, I mean, well, you don't necessarily want to be a dick about things.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I didn't mean like that. Like, you know how people have the ability to, when they come across as let's say an ass, but they're not actually trying to be an ass or hurt the person's feeling. What you're saying is that they're not understanding what you were saying, the tensor connection between the two, that you can make the medium in between understand that you're coming at them from this point of view without actually offending them. Is that, am I using it right?
Well, that's why I'm also a proponent of like being quick to say you're sorry, and also being even quicker to accept an apology, because it's like, okay, if you can get past that, if you can let that one thing go, now you can actually like move on to other topics. Because I've literally seen like arguments that last for an hour over one little thing, not even related to not even the main topic, but perhaps tangentially related to the topic, and people arguing over nitty gritty for an hour about it. And it just made me want to tear my hair out. But I'm sorry, Lorena, you were going to say something.
No, I was going to say, I would have to say, actually, I've had experience with the type of job that I have, and also like in practice. When you are speaking with someone, um, no matter how passionate you are about your point of view, you have to understand that that's a flesh and blood person on the other side that you're talking to. I know sometimes I can be very, very blunt in my delivery, but when someone is not a very logical person, they're a very emotional person. Sometimes it is very helpful to reflect to them what they said to make sure that you understand it. It's like, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you said X, Y, and Z. What that does is that makes the person feel that, one, what they said was important enough that you wanted to understand what they said, and two, you want to have a conversation with them. You do not want to talk at them. So that's something that helps a lot. Like a couple of times I could tell a developer, your code sucks, but I'm just like, I really can't use that particular language. That's not really, even though it does suck, it's not the most productive. So I may say something like, usually you have a pretty good approach to X, Y, and Z, but in this case, it's really not working. So I need you to work with me to help solve this. So, let me know what your thoughts are. I think when people have conversations, sometimes they're so eager to be right that it doesn't matter if they insult the other person, and that can wind up burning. Burning a lot of bridges.
Right, right,
That's just
and
it.
it. Well, no, no, I totally agree with that. It's just at that point you switch it from it's like, all right, there are issues with this code here that an individual may feel like is an attack, whereas you literally just did like a compliment sandwich right there. It's like, all right, here you're often strong in these areas. There seem to be some issues within this. Let's fix it. So now you've taken a more conciliatory approach as well. And now it's like, all right, now we're working together on fixing something. So I tend to think I would be at least more inclined to help somebody at that point rather than them coming up to be like, your stuff sucks.
I,
Just,
I've
just
had
my
some
opinion.
that'll start to like, you're trying to make me feel like I can't do my job. I'm like, ugh, all right. I literally got a call like that. Somebody's manager said, you made them feel like they couldn't do their job. I'm like, well, I didn't say that they couldn't do their job entirely. I just said, this is a problem. What's going on? Let's go, ahead and solve it, you know.
I think you might be
But
nicer than me. It's just, I don't know. I might be, it's like, well, they can do their
it,
job, right?
it, it depends. It really does depend. It's just like, yeah, because there's like certain people that I like. There's certain people who, and I tell people before there was a word for it, Asperger's syndrome, before there was a word for it, I knew what it was. Because when you have certain people with Asperger's who are extremely smart, very detail oriented, very focused, and a lot of them wind up, in the sciences and all of that. So sometimes when they'll say stuff, it's like, okay, you're not trying to be an ass, you're trying to communicate. So a lot of times I have to diffuse it, kind of like, let's really, get to the point where I've had some people say, oh, so and so's an ass. I'm like, no, you just kind of have to understand where they're coming from, and
It's
treat,
it's it's more
treat.
of just, yeah, no, it's more of social awkwardness and stuff. Given that particular situation, maybe the
Exactly.
person they think they're responding in an appropriate way, but from other people's
Exactly.
observation, it's like, oh, what the heck did they just do? And if it's nothing gets said about it, it's like maybe they just think it's fine. You don't need to yell at them. You just kind of just take someone aside privately. I mean, that would be the most beneficial way. And just be, hey, listen. I realize like you're trying there, but a lot of folks they didn't necessarily take this as well, and now you're explaining it. You're trying to help them overcome an issue rather than just like pointing and screaming at them. And I tend to think a lot of
Ex-
times
ex-
when we're poking and screaming at people, especially on the internet, that there might be more
oh,
going on in these situations.
exactly. I tell people you never know what someone is going through. You really don't. So again, it's like, remember, there's a flesh and blood person on the other end. They may be acting like, an a-hole, but
Yeah.
gotta, gotta try to,
On the
gotta
other
try to
side of that
understand.
dragonkin might be a human being.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll give them a pass.
I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. This has been such a really, really cool, discussion. Absolutely. So I'm so glad Stephen got to book you on onto the show, because I'm like, there's other people I need to bring on. And I'm like, yeah, definitely got to bring on memes of distraction.
No, no, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So, definitely going to put a cut shot in here of his YouTube site. Also, please follow him on Twitter, and meanwhile, do you have anything coming up that you would like to tell the people out here watching about on
Well, I
YouTube?
think at this point, as far as the greater YouTube sphere goes, probably going to go back to a little bit of my old ways. Apparently, according to certain folks, such as Culture Casino, I've been making people feel bad by doing a lot of workout videos, which was basically just my version. I've been putting them on my other channel, which I rediscovered the password for like a decade later, and then I'm like, all right. I don't have content today, and a couple of times I just accidentally uploaded them to the wrong account. So I'm like, all right, well, go YouTube algorithm, eat this content. And the algorithm's like, what the heck are you doing? It's like, you got news content over here, you got trolley content over here, you got anime music videos over here, and you got workout music videos over here. It's like, these aren't the algorithms you're looking for here. It's like, where do you even fit in? So I'm like, that's why I'm at like 666, 669 subscribers. It's okay, it's okay. I'm playing long game. But I think I'm going to use the Means of Destruction channel for probably do some live streams. Probably just end up just either untitling or taking those down, and then just kind of like clipping a lot of things out from this and other streams, and just kind of get back to my trolly nature, because that is truly when I have the most fun there. Just being able to take folks completely out of context, line them up in a way that just put it to one-eyed, one-horn flying purple people eater, and just go to town.
Absolutely, because literally, dude, no joke, that was one of the funniest things that you would do. And I would look forward to when you would post like a new video, like a trolling video. It brings a lot of joy to a lot of people. So I'm glad to hear you're going to be getting back to it. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up for this show. Big thank you to the Beams of Destruction for joining us. So please do follow him on YouTube, subscribe to him on YouTube, follow him on Twitter, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, memes.
Turtle power.